Essentially the same unappreciative crowd full of scumbags from last night.
Taking over me, and I can hardly breathe. I need a problem solver, someone to cure my sorrow. It's taking over me, and I can't feel her breathe. This hate is so contagious, sometimes I cannot take it.
Hi, I'm the Fireball Kid, Jordan James, and this is the Scumbags of Wrestling podcast.
Are you looking to get into the wrestling business? Well, look no further than the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory, located right here in London, Ontario. Tyson has over 20 years of experience in the wrestling world, and he's even been brought down to the WWE Performance Center to be a guest trainer. We've already seen the likes of Jordan James, Kyle Boone, Violet Lee, Jim Strider, Pharaoh Bowman, Chris Mitchells, and many more. Plus, the new generation that are coming from the second group, such as Josh Pine, Shiloh, Nova, Frankie War, and many more. You don't want to miss your opportunity to learn from one of the best in Ontario, if not all of Canada, or the world, in Tyson Dukes. So that's the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory. It's open Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and located at 309 Exeter Road here in London.
And it's the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast, episode number 59. Technically, maybe number 60, but after last week's 3-hour marathon, we did split episode 58 into two parts. One was all Smash Wrestling, the other one was everything else involving wrestling, and it was amazing that we got a whole hour and a half almost of Smash Wrestling. So whether you're listening to this on any of the 14 outlets that we have, whether it's Podcoin, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, there's so many. I've got them all listed on our Facebook page. You can always find us anywhere and share it to all your friends on whatever format that they listen to it. You're going to be able to also connect to us, as I said, on our Facebook page. We're very interactive with everybody in the community, whether you're here in London or beyond. We've got fans all over the place, even from the States, joining us on the Facebook page. We celebrate wrestlers' birthdays, and we sometimes have watch-along parties with old school wrestling. And there's going to be a huge feature coming up in the coming weeks, and it involves the Tyson Dukes Wrestling Factory. Plus, I'm still going to be going back to talk to the first class of the graduates and follow up on what they did in the last year since they made it big and made their debut in Smash Wrestling. So once again, this is episode 59. We have a lot to talk about today because Chris Maloney and I were at the Northern Tournament, and there's stuff with AEW, New Japan, and WWE's having Super Showdown tomorrow night. Joining me again this week is Chris Maloney from the Sharpshooter Podcast. How are you tonight, Chris?
I'm good. A little bit of exhaustion going on. It's been a busy couple of weeks of wrestling, but in all fairness, it's been good wrestling, especially the Smash shows that we get to see up there in Toronto. So yeah, looking forward to the podcast tonight.
Yeah, definitely can't go wrong. It's been an amazing period of time, and as those who follow this podcast and also follow Smash Wrestling, there's a amount of wrestling coming up between now and the end of August with SummerSlam weekend. With that said, we did attend the Northern Tournament this past weekend. It was 2 nights of Smash Wrestling on Saturday and Sunday, June 1st and June 2nd, from the Franklin Horner Community Center. 16 matches plus, I believe, in total that happened that night. or over the 2 nights. And what do you think of the Franklin Horror Community Center?
Well, it's established territory there for Smash Wrestling, but to be honest, when I compare the venues to the London Music Hall or even the Phoenix there in Toronto, it's just not the same feel, you know? Don't get me wrong. I mean, once the action was underway and stuff like that, people were enjoying themselves and were caught up in the moments, but I think Smash deserves better as far as their venues go. I mean, they strive and talk about how some of these events are like the WrestleManias and stuff like that. And I know Super Showdown 7 is going to take place at a different venue, and I'm excited for that one. But as far as doing the Northern Tournament, I'd like to see it take place at a different venue, maybe next year.
Yeah, that was my first time in the Franklin Horror Community Center, and I don't know, maybe it was because there was a lot of other stuff going on Saturday night in the Toronto area, including Superkick was doing a show. There was a show in Kitchener. I'm not sure. No, it was Sunday that was Raptors, so there was a lot of things still going on, but the crowd seemed a little bit smaller for the Saturday show. And I was actually surprised of the Franklin Horror Community Center because it is sort of just a gym. And compared to the London Music Hall or even the Phoenix, it kind of felt like a step backwards. But I heard that the Phoenix isn't kind of available right now to all of the scheduling conflicts between what Smash wants to do and what the Phoenix has already booked for the concerts. And so that's been difficult scheduling everything for Toronto. And thankfully, during SummerSlam weekend, they have a different venue, as you just alluded to a moment ago. But I did post a moment ago that we were doing this podcast, and if anybody had questions, and Alan Taylor popped up and had a question and asked how pretty were the lights for the show. He obviously has a vested interest in knowing that, needing feedback since he is the main person producing the show and having it video edited and presented for the Fight Network. So, to answer Alan's question, what did you think of the lights for Super Show? The Northern Tournament.
So I'll give Smash credit on this, and this goes throughout every single show I've gone to, including the Fanshawe College shows. Their presentation is amazing, and it's I mean, to be fair, it's lights and the old kind of dry ice smoke show type thing, but they make it work. And when I say that, it's because when I go back and I look at the photos I've taken, some of them are absolutely amazing. You know, one of the guys that wasn't part of the Northern Tournament, but I love taking shots of is Scotty O'Shea because he's got that green light going on. So if you catch taking a shot at the right time, it ends up being a cool shot without any kind of filters. Same thing, I get this great shot of Ultimo Dragon on Saturday. Red Death, Daniel Garcia, when we're at Super Showdown 6 last year. It was a cool shot I got at him. Kevin Bennett as well. Like some of these guys, I know what to look for. Brent Banks is another one, the whole black and white feature. But I do get props for that. I mean, as far as the whole audio video aspect of Smash Wrestling goes, they're top notch. And when I say top notch, I'm like way up there with ROH and New Japan and AEW for that matter. So not quite WWE, but there's one WB and we don't need a replica. So props to Smash and Alan Taylor for doing what they do.
Yeah, we've had the WWE production, which is top notch for decades now, and at the same time, I think I mentioned before, they do still need freshening up, but they are the leaders in production value. But you mentioned how all the other companies, they're somewhat on par, Smash Wrestling is, and I would totally agree with that because you wouldn't know exactly that they are an independent promotion due to their production values. They are on par with a Ring of Honor and maybe even better than Ring of Honor for their presentation. The lights, I think, are really good the way they have them around, and it's definitely needed for lighting the ring, and what they do at the entrance is really good and gives each entrance their own character. myself taking photos, I've actually been taking a lot more. I think for the Northern Tournament alone, over the 2 nights between video and photo, there was almost 2,500 photos. And I know I just have to position myself to not get the burst shots and have the lights affect it, but that's all on me to position. Their presentation on Fight Network is definitely top notch and very professional. So definitely kudos for the fact that they're doing it with just the 4 lights on either all 4 corners pointing in. They have just 3 cameras, a hard camera and 2 mobile cameras doing the whole show. And you wouldn't know it's just that much production.
Yeah, I was going to say the cool thing is as well is that it doesn't really matter what kind of show you're at, but like when I'm taking photos, all I'm using is the iPhone. That's it. And I have an iPhone 8, and some of the shots are absolutely amazing. You go on to Instagram. I don't know her last name, forgive me, but girl named Holly. You see it pretty much every Smash show. When you see the type of camera she has and the shots that you can get, or another gentleman, Steve from TSN, was at the show on. I don't think he was there both nights. I think just the Sunday. Some of his shots were amazing as well. So, and that gives you a good idea as far as what iPhone versus close-up camera goes. But I mean, some of people's iPhone shots, you'd swear to God they were like taking professional camera. So again, to reiterate what Sean's saying, just amazing as far as the audio-visual goes, as far as Smash and any show you go to.
So once again, thank you, Alan, for all you do and the hard work that your crew puts into it.
Following the news that the former hottest free agent in pro wrestling, Kenny Omega, is joining AEW, London Comic-Con can finally announce that the Best Belt Machine is making its way to Southwestern Ontario for London Comic-Con 2019 this October. Omega will be available to meet fans, sign autographs, and host a special VIP video game tournament. More details and announcements are coming soon. Check out London Comic-Con for more details.
And we're going to look in on the Northern Tournament with night number 1, June 1st, Franklin Horror Community Center. And that night was just the first round. We had 8 matches, and those winners were going to advance to day number 2 on June 2nd and battle it out to go to a fatal 4-way elimination match in the main event. On the first night, we started off with Tyson Duke's factory student and graduate, in a way, Jim Strider, taking on the hugely popular upstart, because he's somewhat new to the scene, Jason Kincaid. Really good match. Strider had the hard-hitting side of him, much like a Stan Hansen replica or upstart image to him, and Kincaid used a lot of his speed to actually upset Strider and move on to the next round. What were your thoughts on the first match?
Kincaid is growing on me, I'll tell you that much. When I first saw him in the tag team here in London, I was like, okay, it's 2 guys that can do flips and everything else. But the more, like I said, the more I see Kincaid, the more he's growing on me. Match between the 2 of these guys was great because Strider is kind of a more ground guy. You said Stan Hansen, like I said, and I've said this before, he reminds me of Hangman Page from AEW. But surprised that Strider didn't go over in this one. I mean, he'll get his due. He's still a young guy. But we'll expect to see a lot of good things from Kincaid. And this match was one of those, and he's tremendously gifted. And it'd be interesting to see where they go with Kincaid. It's almost one of those things I wouldn't mind Smash adding another championship, and I know there's too many championships in wrestling, but almost like an Intercontinental or X Division type championship to give these guys the ability to have that title, to work with the title, to feud with that title, and then maybe move up to the next level. And Kincaid's one of those guys I would put in kind of that Intercontinental division.
Yeah, that would probably somewhat be, I guess, on the line of what Barry Wrestling has with the Three Pistols